Wakanda is the fictional and secret African country in which the movie Black Panther is set. Reviews about the film Black Panther sometimes refer to Wakanda as a black utopia. It is a technological marvel, thanks to vibranium, an element with special powers only found in Wakanda. Wakanda is shown in the first part of the film to be a prosperous place with harmonious relations between most of the tribes. However, as the film goes on, you realize that Wakanda has all the weaknesses of most modern African states. It has a weak constitution and rule of law. It is governed by an authoritarian leader. It is a society divided along tribal lines. These tribal divisions come into play in important political decisions or in times of conflict. Nepotism decides who will be in positions of power rather than merit. All of the above results in a politically unstable state that can and does easily descend into anarchy and civil war. Although the king of Wakanda, also known as the Black Panther, rules with the help of a tribal council, it is quite clear that T'Challa has absolute authority. In this scene with the tribal council, several members express their opinions on a matter. In the end, T'Challa gives his decision in a few words and then gets up to go. There is nothing like voting or the need for unanimous decision-making. His say is the final say.
You have my word. I will bring him back. We will proceed with the mission.
It's also made clear to us that T'Challa is not really accountable to anyone other than himself. He makes it clear that there are no checks on his power and he is not subject to the rule of law when he tells Killmonger.
Only reason I don't kill you where you stand is because I know who you are.
Translation: I can totally get away with murdering anyone I like, but the fact that you're a royal means I'll spare your life. T'Challa talks more like a dictator than a non-partisan figurehead monarch. Superheroes have always acted outside of the rule of law. Superman and Batman are vigilantes with difficult relationships with the authorities. But the problem with T'Challa is that he is the authority. He doesn't tell Killmonger, I will have you arrested, then duly charged if there is sufficient evidence, and then you will be given a fair trial and judged by a jury of your peers. He is actually threatening to assassinate Killmonger, who at this point has done nothing to harm T'Challa or Wakanda. In conclusion, T'Challa is clearly an authoritarian ruler with no checks on his power. It doesn't seem that Wakanda is a merit-based society. There are a lot of examples of nepotism and positions of authority being reserved to those from particular families. The king's quite young-looking sister appears to be the head of science and technology for the Wakandan Secret Service. This is a bit like if Prince Harry were the head of technology at MI6. One wonders what qualifies this young woman for that job. Would she be in that position if she were not a royal?
Unlimited range.
Furthermore, the king's mother sits on the tribal council, giving her an important voice in decision-making at the national level. I'm all for having women in power, but surely it should be women qualified to be in power, not just those who were born into or married into the right family. It is also made clear to us that only those of royal blood can challenge the incumbent Black Panther for the throne of Wakanda.
Is there any member of a royal blood who wishes to challenge for the throne?
I'm exercising my blood right. The challenge for the mantles of King and Black Panther.
Do not do this, T'Challa.
As the son of Prince Njobu, he is within his rights.
Killmonger's challenge to T'Challa triggers a sequence of events that exposes the weakness of Wakanda's constitution and eventually leads to a civil war. Although T'Challa is portrayed as the good guy and Killmonger as the bad guy, It is T'Challa and his supporters who are prepared to violate Wakanda's constitution in order to prevent Killmonger from seizing power. Let's recap the events that lead to the Civil War. First, Killmonger exercises his constitutional right to make a claim to the throne. T'Challa accepts the challenge.
I accept your challenge.
Killmonger wins the ritual combat fairly and according to accepted rules. His victory is immediately accepted even by those who support T'Challa. The only people who oppose Killmonger's succession to the throne is T'Challa's mother, sister, and former lover. Killmonger gets the powers of the Black Panther, in accordance with Wakandan traditions. Killmonger proves himself to be a tyrannical and unwise leader that has no regard for Wakandan customs. Killmonger lays out a plan to make Wakanda an imperial power, a dramatic departure from Wakanda's foreign policy until now of remaining hidden in plain sight. Despite the fact that most of the tribal council clearly disagree with Killmonger, it is quite clear that they have no real power to check the king's will. T'Challa's mother, sister, former lover, and a hapless CIA agent go to the rogue Jabari tribe to recruit their help to overthrow Killmonger. They are essentially asking the Jabari chief to support them in an unlawful coup d'etat. Even the chief of this rogue tribe points out how legitimate Killmonger's rule is. A herb that gives the consumer the powers of the Black Panther is offered to the Jabari chief to give him enough strength to fight the new king of Wakanda. This herb has been stolen from the garden where they grow, another illegal act. The insurrectionists discover T'Challa is still alive, just barely, and give him the herb to heal him. T'Challa fails to persuade the Jabari chief to give him an army to overthrow Killmonger to prevent vibranium being used to take over the world. T'Challa comes back and tells Killmonger he never yielded in the ritual combat, causing a constitutional crisis. The head of the all-female royal guard considers the challenge to be incomplete, but Wakabi, the leader of the border tribe who supports Killmonger, attacks T'Challa, and so the country descends into civil war. In most countries, a disputed election is referred to the courts. Either an accepted adjudicator to resolve disputes like this does not exist in Wakanda, or its most senior military leaders do not have enough respect for the Wakandan constitution to uphold it, despite their personal preference for leader. The lack of limits on executive power make it impossible to curtail a tyrannical ruler who wishes to use Wakanda's unbelievably powerful military arsenal to take over other nations. Seeing how easy it was for one man to destabilize the country within 24 hours, it seems implausible that Wakanda had managed to keep itself united, prosperous, and concealed for so long. The fighting is also clearly divided along tribal lines. When civil war breaks out, there is no soul-searching or debate by individuals which side they want to be on. The border tribe blindly follows Wakabi, just like the royal guard blindly follows their general. This makes it clear that the picture of tribal harmony presented earlier in the film is nothing but a facade that rips away as soon as there is any sign of conflict. So I've shared with you why I think Black Panther just shows the worst parts of modern Africa: the nepotism, tribalism, authoritarianism, and political instability all reinforce harmful stereotypes of Africans. However, the comic book ending of the Black Panther series did show promising signs as T'Challa considered transitioning peacefully to democracy in response to protests from democratic movements. To anyone who thinks that Africans don't do democracy well, you need to take a closer look at African history. Democratic principles have deep roots in different African societies. For example, the Igbo people in Nigeria had a pre-colonial democratic governing structure that gave women and young people a voice. I've put a couple of links below to get some more information. It could be argued that it is the impact of colonialism that gave rise to the prevalence of strongmen rulers in Africa, rather than any cultural inclination. What do you think? Please share your thoughts in the comments below.